Well, here we are again. This is my review for the Real Housewives of Potomac Season 8 Reunion Part 2. This is the extended version, by the way. I'm watching it on Peacock. I will say y'all might get this video on Tuesday. It's Monday morning right now, but I have to go to work in an hour, and I won't be back till 5. And who knows where I'll be on this review by then. Anywho, we left off on a cliffhanger with Mia talking about who is the father of her child. And she says that Ink does believe it, and she said that there was overlap, but she said, I took an IUI, I know my body. Ladies, explain to me what an IUI is later. But she said, that's Gordon's child. But then you have side conversations going on in the couch saying, but Ink looks like Gordon. So as she's talking about it with Andy, it looks like Karen puts a pin in this conversation. She's saying that this baby's gonna grow up one day to see this. And while that's true, I did want them to expound upon this situation, maybe ask Mia, was a DNA test involved? Was it court ordered? But no, they move on. I get where Karen's coming from, but this isn't her story. That's Mia's story and her child. So if she wants to speak on it, let her. They move on though, unfortunately, to Karen allegedly calling Mia a hoe on Watch What Happens Live. They're going back and forth on semantics. It seemed like she did call her one, but she's not owning it. It just then gets silly to like Andy calling himself a hoe. We're moving on. While we're on Mia and Karen, Andy asks Karen for confirmation, is that the rapper she was talking about? She says yes. Mia then corrects everyone, including Andy, radio personality, but he dabbled in rap. He's a rapper DJ. He's like a Ludacris, but less talented. Mia said she wasn't messing with Ink at the time Karen called her out. I feel like that's a lie. But then they loop Gordon into this by saying that their relationship seemed great at the finale, but they had all this going on. So as they're talking about that, I mean, they are moving on with the topics. Like now we're talking about the transparency that Mia has in her relationship. And Andy, which I'm glad he did this, was comparing it to Robin, because we as fans wanted that kind of transparency with Robin. Mia even says she'd been transparent before that when her and Robin was at the spa and she told her that she was thinking about getting a divorce. It seemed like they then move on to the final fight between Gordon and Mia, but I really wanted Andy to lay into Robin, like, why couldn't you just be that transparent? Especially being an OG of your franchise. Some of the ladies are now asking Mia, why was Gordon so mad in that scene? Was it because he's not financially stable anymore, so you went with Ink? And she says no, it has nothing to do with Ink, and it has nothing to do with financial stability. Okay. Mia is boiling it down to Gordon's attitude, like giving examples about him draining her bank account or waking her up at 4 in the morning to discuss business deals or just how he treats her on a daily basis. She says the co-mingling with Ink was coincidentally just happening at the time. And he then asked Mia, is she financially supporting Gordon at the time? She says she's helping, and then she says yes. Okay, so then we get into the whole stripper heiress conversation. So the way she breaks it down, she says she had 3 grandparents pass, she came into some cash, and then a year later on, when they were married, she found out that his finances were shaky. Kind of like with Portia and Simon, but Mia said he had bankruptcies, and I'm just like, you just mentioning this 3 seasons in? Like, I'm sure in prior seasons she was perpetrating her confessional, much like Gordon was to her. Whoo, Mia just so inconsistent and be lying, but she's entertaining. Hearing all this financial conversation with Mia, I mean, she better hope she's asked back next season. Andy then asked her directly, so when are you getting a divorce? And she said the soonest she could get a divorce is June of this year. Andy then asked Candiace and Wendy, like, since their husbands are on a group chat together with G, did they know anything? And then Mia points out when she was going through her, divorce announcement, she didn't hear from Candiace or Wendy. And she felt some type of way because she was like, oh, well, maybe these aren't my friends. And I was like, well, I don't think Mia should be surprised by that. But they own that they didn't reach out to her. Wendy then goes into her long soliloquy, which could have been way shorter. She said she saw the wild things that Gordon was saying about her, and in her mind, she thought recently they just came off of Mia throwing a drink at her. They then cut to some of the other ladies whispering that didn't Wendy and Mia get over that fight? They were bumping coochies or whatever. I can't remember, and I thought they were good after the reunion. Didn't this happen mid-filming of season 8? So Wendy was still holding on to that? I don't know, but at the end of the day, Wendy should have just said, you know, I'm just not fucking with you. But it was just this long diatribe. She's like, I could have put you on blast for some of the things I heard, but because I didn't, that shows my love for you. Okay, Wendy, whatever you say. I just wanted a straight up answer, and it just seems like, you know, her and Ashley or her and Mia, like, are you cool with them or not? So then Candiace speaks up and says she just didn't want to be involved. But Mia said, if the same happened to you, I would have reached out. Again, Candiace should have just said, you know what, Mia, we not cool like that. But they didn't want to say that. I also forgot to mention that Karen was whispering to Giselle that I think G reached out to her, but she didn't entertain it. Meanwhile, Mia is saying that even Karen called her, and they were really going at it the whole season. But yeah, Mia tells Candiace, like, this is a sisterhood, bullshit, and let's just not be heartless. And they move on. Now we're getting an update on Mia's living situation. It looked like she's all over the place. She says she's in DC now in a smaller apartment. But Robin clarifies, like, well, when we were hanging out, you were in Atlanta, but the kids were in Charlotte, but you're in DC. Like, what's going on? Mia says she is syndicated. And she's looking at Houston, too. And then out of nowhere, I guess, you know, as she's dating Ink, Wendy says, oh, we can double date. And I'm just like, again, which is it, Wendy? Is it Uchiwali or is it one mic? If you're not fucking with Mia, you're not fucking with her. But now she's your friend, you want to go on a double date with her? You joking with her? I don't know. Look, change the entire cast. I don't care. But something has to change next season. It has to. So now they take a quick break. We're backstage. Look like they're about to bring the husbands out. We see Candiace talking to Chris, and it's about Giselle, saying that she's not owning up to shit, like it's on camera. And Chris is saying he just wished that the situation could be moved on, but it was brought up again this season. Well, it was brought up by Candiace, if we're trying to be honest here. We're in part 2 of the reunion, and I still don't see any moving forward on anybody's behalf. And I doubt it's gonna happen. So ladies are back on stage now, and we're on Giselle's reel. It highlighted her bringing Grace to college. Also, when she was talking about Grace and Wendy and Candiace were looking at each other, her living with her father, and then the scene in the nightclub amongst the women where Wendy was saying that Giselle was talking about her mom. So that's why she didn't reach out to her about her dad. Before Andy could even ask Giselle a question, Giselle points out that what Wendy said is a lie. She didn't know that her mom was in the hospital. And no one told her that her mom was in the hospital. Here's the thing, like, I even said this in the last episode when they were talking about Wendy's mom in the hospital. Like, that scene where it was just her and her mom and she was lying. Like, she said she went to the hospital, like, it was like a little procedure. Like, she was not on her deathbed. She was just at the hospital for a procedure that was not life-threatening. I think it's very different in the case of Giselle's dad, who's having brain surgery that was like life or death. Also, I want to know, why does she keep that same energy for Mia, who joked about her mom to her face when that bird landed? She's like, that's your mama? Now, I know the Wendy lovers probably disagree with me on my stance with that. My issue is, instead of giving this 3-mile long excuse about why you don't want to extend your condolences, just say, I don't fuck with Giselle. Just stand 10 toes down on it. Like, I don't know her like that. She's not my friend like that. So I didn't feel need to check in or call her or give her anything. And just leave it at that. The narrative that she's laying down that her mom was fighting for her life in the hospital and Giselle called her evil is just not true. Like, we saw her talking to her mom and it wasn't a serious hospital visit. It was like a procedure. So that's what I'm saying. Instead of the hyperbole overload, just say you don't fuck with her. So then Andy's talking to Giselle about her dad, what he meant to her. Giselle's talking about his celebration of life. It happened in New Orleans. And we see her getting emotional, which we rarely see Giselle getting emotional. You can hear the trembling in her voice. She's saying how much she appreciated Karen. We then see the camera pan to Candiace, who is crying. And afterward, Andy asks her, why are you crying? And Mia says, child, she cried when the wind blow left. And then Giselle says, even when it's not about her. So I'm pausing right quick because as y'all can see, it's nighttime now. I had to go to work. So let's continue. Candiace doesn't want to admit why she's crying, but she says that she feels for Giselle. I'm so confused. I'm just so confused. And Andy's trying to make a nice light moment out of it, but I'm kind of like Giselle on this. Like, she does not look amused at all. And she's crying while Giselle gets emotional. I don't get it. Now, I'm glad that Candiace has a heart and she's showing humanity, but if that's the case, how come during the season, like when they were talking about, Giselle's dad, when he was going through, she couldn't just say like, oh, well, I know what we're going through, but I just want to wish you condolences on your dad passing. That's all she had to say, but now she's just crying out of nowhere. I just wouldn't know how to take that. Like, imagine somebody that you can't stand, like, crying while you're talking about, like, your deceased relative. And when your relative died, they didn't even tell you anything, but they wait till the reunion to start crying when you're talking about it. I would be taken aback by that and not knowing how to respond. I thought Andy was going to explore this some more, but they move on. They're not talking about Giselle's daughters and how we watched them grow up from season 1. Speaking of Giselle's daughters, we're now on the topic of when she was talking to the ladies about Grace, and the camera showed Candiace and Wendy making faces at each other. For some reason, Andy is asking Karen how come she didn't have anything to say about it. And I agree with Karen, like, they are two grown women, they're responsible for themselves. Karen, I didn't feel needed to take a side in that matter. It had nothing to do with her. Giselle has her guard dog and henchman already. It's Robin. Karen continues to ride the fence a little bit and says everyone makes faces at the table. And then Giselle, which I must say, she has activated this reunion. Not being next to Andy has kind of lit a fire under her. Like, she doesn't give any fucks now what Candiace and Wendy are saying, if y'all noticed that. Prior seasons, she would just be mute the whole time next to Andy, most of the time. Anywho, she's saying, Karen, don't do that. No one should be making faces at the table. Okay, Giselle. I just want you to remember that when you're being petty. Candiace responds, and I thought she was going to say, I regret making faces at the table, but she says, I regret that Giselle's going to use her children to weaponize against me and Wendy. What I thought of it initially was, I just wish they stopped giving Giselle just so much attention when she's talking. Like, I get that Candiace don't like her, but Candiace has to remind us every single second of film that she doesn't like Giselle. And I'm just like, I get it. I see why she left at this point. Like, she seems miserable to be a part of this group, this show. And if it's not working for you, you have other avenues where you can go and make this money now. Go for it, sis. And I wish her the best. I really do. If she stayed on this show any longer, it probably would have affected her mental state or her marriage, or both. They're going back and forth since Giselle says she never weaponized her kids. Wendy interjects and says she actually told Giselle congratulations and asked if Grace was going to pledge AKA. Giselle said that never happened. Candiace is like, run the tape, but there is no tape. Like, production lets Andy know, like, they can't find it. Now it's basically Giselle's word against Wendy. And truth be told, they both lie. They've both been caught in lies, y'all. So it is what it is. Poor Andy, he looks so frustrated in this moment. And that's all of us right now. Candiace agrees with Wendy and says she heard it, so who knows? We move on again, and Giselle's being asked about that guy from Summer House. I really don't care. Let's just fast forward. Giselle don't love that man. He is a cup buddy, some fun peen on the side. I don't need to hear about this. So they take a little break, and the next reel is dedicated to Candiace, her beef with the Green-Eyed Bandits, her going on tour. I think the breast cancer scare that she had as well. Oh, and Michael Darby suing her and the case being dismissed. We end the reel with, the line is always moving! So she gives an update about her biopsy. Everything is fine, thankfully. She's talking about her tour, and she was the queen of City Winery. She said it was successful, but I feel like she was still in the red. Speaking of her tour, I forgot that I think Drew opened for her or something, and Andy was asking about the shade she threw in the beginning of the season. Turns out it was something about Drew did business with someone she knew. I don't care. Both ladies' careers are not going beyond Bravo. Let's be honest. So now we get the Candiace versus Robin. I mean, If part one was any indication, part two is going to be more of the same. Lord, so somehow Giselle got into the mix, and this is on the extended version, y'all, where they bring up season 5, and Giselle wanted to bring up the point that no one supported Candiace more in that moment but her. The most Candiace could agree to that was, yeah, she supported me, but Robin supported me more, and Giselle's support wasn't genuine. She supported me out of her hatred for Monique. Look, I totally agree with Candiace. Giselle rallied half the cast against Monique, and I wish Candiace and Wendy at least would have saw through that. I mean, I get it. Monique was mad at Candiace. She wasn't really apologetic for it. I mean, why was she? I think this would have been an entirely different show if they were able to move past that. But back to Candiace versus Robin. We're back to the tweets now. Candiace giving that soliloquy after she found out that Robin hid all that mess that happened with her and Juan. Andy breaks the fourth wall and asks Robin, was she really angry at Candiace, more so because she was coming for her job? Robin doesn't admit that, but she says that it's just something a friend wouldn't do. So then afterward, Candiace gives a timeline of events. Candiace said it first started after the reunion. It was like January 23rd. She sent Robin a post when she saw her with long hair. It looked like she complimented her on it, but it looks like Robin was mad at Candiace after the reunion, and Candiace didn't know that. Robin responded sarcastically as well as a little catty. She said, probably makes me look even more like a white adjacent looking woman, so can't imagine that's a good thing. Implying that she was really mad about the whole colorism argument and how she went off on Giselle, you know, with her white looking ass. Now after that, Candiace messages her, are you mad at me? Crickets from Robin. So now we're in March, according to Candiace. That means a month and a half has passed by. You haven't talked to your friend. She hears about the Juan news and tells her sorry that you're going through this. No response from Robin. It seemed like Robin was done with her after that reunion, and I guess Candiace was not aware of that. So then she says, now the news about the paywall comes, and that's when she tweeted the soliloquy. It looks like to me after the season 7 reunion, Robin was done with Candiace, and Candiace had no idea about that, and she still wanted Robin's friendship. Candiace then apologizes to Robin for what she wrote on Twitter, and I feel like all Robin had to do in this moment was just accept the apology and move on, but no. She talks about how, I'm guessing after season 7, how she was accused of being a colorist, and just how uncomfortable she was. And then on top of that, when the Juan thing came out, everybody was talking about on the cast, but Candiace, though, to her, went above and beyond to call her ass out on Twitter. I feel like Robin just can't get past that. Also, I forgot to mention, when Robin's talking about the colorism conversation, it looked like she's about to cry. No tears come out, though, but she says it hurts her. Candiace responds by saying that with the colorist conversation, she thought that this group was able to talk about race as much as she is. She's comfortable talking about any aspect of it. Giselle interjects and says she's comfortable talking about colorism. Candiace is like, I wasn't talking to you. Candiace says she mistakenly thought the group was able to talk about it as well. So I feel like Giselle here has a right to respond since she is talking about the whole group. Candiace tells Giselle, though, that she's comfortable talking about race and color when it benefits her. Giselle then accuses Candiace of insinuating on social media that they're colorists. And Candiace disagrees, and I'm just like, Candiace, girl, this is what I've been talking about. If you're going to say something, like stand 10 toes down on it. Do you think Giselle is a colorist? Yes or no? I don't follow Candiace on Twitter. Come to think about it, I don't think I follow any of the Potomac Housewives on social media, period, for obvious reasons. But I feel like throughout the season, Candiace has brought up how the green-eyed bandits can be colorists. Side note, I just want to reiterate, I'm not saying that there hasn't been any colorism on the show. I'm gonna just leave it there. But moving on, Wendy interjects, and she does make some sense when she says this. She parallels this to if it was black and white, and if there was like racism called out on the show. Like, the narrative should be flipped. Okay, well, why was this action racist? She continues and says, if you're not going to talk about it existing, then don't talk about this phenomenon at all. And then Karen interjects and says they are the cast to talk about colorism, if there's any cast on Bravo of black women. Wendy definitely disagrees with that and says they don't have the range. Whew, and speaking of which, Andy just wants to move the fuck on. This would have been a perfect time for Candiace to explain what was colorist. Like, what they did was colorist, to unpack that. But again, I have to agree with Wendy when she said, like, I just think this show itself does not have the range. The host doesn't have the range. We see Neck on the side asking Robin, why do they think you're colorist? And Robin's like, well, now that we have any conflict with a brown-skinned person, they think we're colorist. Even though I've been beefing with Ashley for 3 years, I beefed with Karen. I mean, after that, Andy puts a pin in it. Andy then tells Candiace, I'm assuming there's nowhere for the two of you to go at this moment. And she agrees. She said the worst has been done. Yeah, and Robin seems confused when she says the worst. It's donezo between the two of them. Actually, that's fine for them now because allegedly they're both off the show. So after that, they go to break, but we see Nneka asking Robin, well, she did apologize to you for the tweets. Do you not accept that? Robin's like, well, she still believes that I plotted on her and her husband. So Robin can't get past that. So we're at a stalemate. So then we see the husbands are coming out. So we're backstage for a bit, and oh, Nneka's husband, he looked fine. I love what he's wearing. He looks good, looking sharp. I know a few of you don't think he's attractive, but I definitely think he's attractive. And of course, once again, all the husbands are there except for Juan. We also see Nneka is really anticipating her time to defend herself because she's very aware how much she's been dragged on social media. A lot of people don't want her back, but I will say, I just think she deserves one more season. If Wendy could get 3 chances, Nneka can get 1. I think her chances are 80-20 coming back. So everyone's back out on stage. Andy's greeting the husbands. We get to Chris, and Andy acknowledges that he was hardly on the season. And Chris says it was intentional. Already, his vibe is he don't want to be there. He's there for his wife to support her. He seems miserable every time I see him on camera, whether it's with the group or even with Candiace. Andy then asks Chris, does he think that Robin plotted with Giselle to air him out to hide her story with Juan? Chris doesn't answer the question. He says that he didn't talk about it all season. He say he don't give a fuck. Again, it would have helped if they would have both stand 10 toes down and just answer the question. Chris is not out the hot seat yet. Andy then asked him about the girl that came out with the screenshot saying she got in a bobo. And then she just recanted all of it. He says it's not true and he never even met the woman before. And then Robin pipes up. She's like, so it's not true with the screenshots? Chris is like, I've never met this person. Now, 2 things here, y'all. Robin, shut your ass up. You're in a glass house right now. Candiace, as well as Chris, I'm kind of mad at them for not ending your ass and bringing up Juan because that's the only infidelity that you should be worried about. Secondly, y'all see that Chris isn't really answering the question. Yeah, he didn't meet her before, but did you send her anything? Like, did y'all follow each other? Because, you know, he could still send her pictures of his peen and never met her before. Robin just keeps going at Chris, and she's the only one doing it. I'm like, why? She's really trying to catch Chris in a gotcha moment. Chris is just denying, and they move on. Oh, not Andy asking Candiace, did she pay the woman off? I want to know, how many of y'all believed that story when it came out? I mean, I just think you got to be really, like, crazy in the brain to make all that shit up, like, all of it. Like, you don't know this woman at all from a can of paint. Like, I think there was a little smoke, but no fire. Like, it was put out before it could be, like, a flame. Andy then brings up to Candiace that she thought the Green-Eyed Bandits was behind this story. And she said she can't prove that, but she said she just doesn't trust Giselle that much. And Giselle, she's not quiet this reunion. She brings up that I had nothing to do with it. The girl even said I had nothing to do with it. I mean, as if that would matter. I honestly don't think they had that much time on their hands to conspire with somebody to bring up a scandal against Candiace and Chris. Or maybe they do. I don't know. As Giselle's defending herself, Candiace says, I just feel that way. And then Giselle says, well, the girl said I had nothing to do with it. Then Chris jumps in and says, well, just how you said you felt a certain way 2 years ago about me, Candiace feels a certain way about you. So how about that? Giselle can't really say nothing to that. She's like, fair, okay. And then they just move on. Speaking of that topic, Andy does ask Chris that he thought that him and Giselle moved on already after she apologized, I guess, for the sneaky link comment. But it seems like they're back at square one now. He says that he hasn't brought it up. It hasn't been talked about. And yeah, but it's still being brought up in season 8. I think because Candiace brought it up. Like, they just never moved forward from that. And that's why we got the season that we got. Both parties want nothing to do with each other, and that's how they went into season 8. We move on, and Andy asking messy questions to all the husbands, wondering how they feel that Juan isn't there to support Robin. They don't want to say anything on that. So since nobody wants to answer the question, he does ask them, well, why is it important for you to come here to defend your wives? Gordon is the only one that answers and says he just want to come and support his wife, even though she's not his wife anymore. Well, they're technically still married, but y'all know what I mean. So it looks like Gordon's in the hot seat now. Andy's telling him that it's been quite a season and talking about how transparent they were. But Gordon says, you know, before they start and then we see the credits rolling, he wants to address something that a lot of people may have been wondering, and they just leave it at that. That is where the episode ends, and we don't get a trailer for the final part. Who knows what's going to be talked about? What do y'all think he's going to say? I think it's going to either be about his son being his or not, or it's going to be about him having prostate cancer or something. It has to be something about his health diagnosis or his son. I could be wrong. Y'all let me know what y'all think he's going to say. And then I think also the rest of the part 3 is going to be dedicated to Wendy versus NECA. And also, I feel like something's going to happen with Candiace to let us know that she's not coming back. Like, because I still think it's weird that she announced that she's not coming back even before the reunion aired. So that's my review, y'all. I mean, I really tried to review this show as best as I could. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got a laugh first and foremost, most importantly, outside of the other bullshit that happens on this show. But with that, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you for part 3. Unfortunately, we will finally put this shit to bed. Maybe season 9 won't be back till 2025. We shall see. Let me end this fucking video. Bye.